Oh no, what? What is RTCA? RTCA is valid. We are admiring their culture that is not racist. People are allowed to change genders. Why can't we change cultures? We're giving each other, RTCA people, tips. And if you don't like that, then don't watch us. It's like transgender. They don't feel comfy if they're OG gender. We don't feel comfortable in our culture. Please support us. I think it's like a anti-trans 4chan operation that has like gotten out of control, maybe. There is a medically documented phenomena of transracialism, but it only comes from adoption, right? As far as I understand, that's it. Like, that's the only type of like genuine and valid, at least medically documented circumstance for that level of behavior, or that kind of behavior, that kind of thinking. It's like a psychologically documented phenomena. People have written on the subject. It's not biological, of course. It would not be how the would it be biological? But this kind of stuff is more so just like, oh no, my brain is broken from TikTok and now I'm Japanese. I got nothing to lose. My dream name is Akari Kobayashi. I've always felt connected to one place, one race. What? I believe I can be Japanese? What the is going on, dude?
I finally found an RCTA server. So I have to do this template thing, and wait, should I actually get like a Japanese name or something? Oh shit, bro, I was filling this shit out and they're already discussing who not to verify.
Wait, they said don't verify this person? Why? Too old? What the
Too old? 27? Too old to transition? What's happening?
And your reason for RTCA is not valid.
For RCTA is not valid? Because I love Korea? Wait.
I first of all, I love that they're gatekeeping race swapping. That's awesome. Imagine being a hipster about psychosis. This is kind of like the shifting trend a few years ago. Yeah, but even I think a lot of this is just like young people being online. I think that's where like the overwhelming majority of this comes from, it seems. Oh, Nuka Zeus. I forgot about this guy. This guy's crazy, dude. Do you guys remember him now? Nuka Zeus on what made him decide to do skin injections to become black. All right, let's get back to this RTCTA shit.
Wait, I have to be careful. They're actually monitoring this shit.
Race change to another.
Verify chat clean, please. I'm so sorry. I just get angry sometimes seeing antis. All clear.
Here's the thing. Everyone in this Discord server, under normal circumstances, would probably go to jail, but this is the only instance where it's okay because like they're literally 12. You have to understand. Look at the way they're writing. They are all mentally ill 12 and 14-year-olds. The hope is they inevitably move away from their obsession of being extremely online or their obsession of being Korean or Japanese to more fun hobbies that gets them outside, that gets them in the periphery of like other normal human beings, and inevitably they will grow out of it. After all, there are plenty of people who were a part of the, the Minecraft stan communities that used to fight incredible battles online in the 2020s. And a lot of you grew up from who you were. It ultimately wasn't as out of control as this, or maybe as insane as this, but like there are probably plenty of people with hyperfixations that back in the day would get mad at like Tommy Innit for saying he's a lesbian or something. And then there would be like a 100K like Twitter thread about how that's problematic. Everyone has something when they're younger. The only problem is now there's a sense of community around that something because it's online, and being online and the anonymity that comes with it basically has this effect of like assuming that the person that you're talking to is in your age range. And that's where all of this shit comes from. Because normally if you saw a bunch of fucking kids in like 3rd grade having this conversation with one another, you'd be like, oh, how cute. 3rd grade, 4th grade, maybe high schoolers. If they were having this conversation with one another, you'd be like, oh, these guys are like, oh, they're crazy. They're just like the power of imagination. But now that it's online, you don't immediately assume or you don't immediately see what's going on there. When I was younger, I loved Dragon Ball Z, and I would go in the pool and I would imagine I was fucking Goku, like going Super Saiyan and like flying when I was in the pool. Or when I used to play basketball, I would do the crowd noises myself after I fucking, dropped the dime or something. Like I'd be like, like I would imagine myself being Kobe Bryant. I mean, everyone did that, and it's normal. The difference is I wasn't online, so I didn't have another community of like-minded 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds that were like, no, you are literally Kobe Bryant, actually. If you will it, you can become Kobe Bryant, like literally Kobe Bryant. I think that this could have a potential damaging impact on society or on young minds when the delusion turns into like something that seeps into the real world, especially because here's what I think. The more we utilize the internet, the more we are on the internet, the more we care about how we appear on the internet. There are so many people, even in this community, for example, that spend every waking moment online and rarely ever have like real human interaction in the real world, especially with how algorithms work on social media. That can truly redefine the way you see the world and dramatically change it, especially if you have no touching grass mechanism. This is also partially the reason why I always try, because I know how extremely online my community is and I know how niche our ideas are. I try to always like snap you back into reality a little bit, and I try to keep as grounded as possible by surrounding myself with normal people, normies, all the time, having interactions with them all the time, being out and about, being in public as much as I can. This, I think, helps me keep grounded and stay at least like a little bit more reasonable. I was talking to someone who's a bit of a libertarian last night, and they were like, why don't you just like move off the grid, move into a compound, build your own compound. You can have all of these amenities that you love living here. And he's like, why don't you want to get away from the city? And I was like, I love being in a city. I love being around other people. I think it's great. I think it's a perfectly normal and reasonable thing. And I was talking to him about how I think that a lot of people escape into the suburbs, and that is how they become more paranoid about whatever the fuck they perceive is happening in the cities. Why? Because the only time they experience the city is through the television, and the television can tell them something that is entirely different. It can hyper-focus on all the crime that's happening. If you live in a city, you're always aware that crime is happening around you, but you develop an understanding that it's a normal part of existence, right? It's not a good thing, but obviously it's just like something that happens. It's not as terrifying as you think it is when you live in the suburbs and you look at the city from the television. I think COVID did that for a lot of teenagers, by the way. I surrounded myself with people like this back in 2020, 2021, but they deluded themselves into thinking they were fictional characters. So I kind of get the mentality of these people. Was also extremely depressed during this time, so that definitely contributed to it. So glad I at least grew out of it. Yeah, I think that COVID was a big reason for why people got like as wild as they did. It's like someone who doesn't drive hearing about all the accidents on highways and freeways, etc., and is terrified to drive. Exactly. And that is a much more normie adult fear that happens all the time as well. Now, kick that into overdrive and put the malleable mind of a child there instead of the malleable mind of like a conservative adult living in a rural part of town, only watching television, and you understand what we have in front of us. Ultimately, though, the fix to this always is mixed income, diverse urban neighborhoods. It's true. That's how it works. Walkable cities, public transit, and mixed income urbanism. This is how you fix a lot of the issues. Public parks is how you fix a lot of the issues with touching grass. And I think that America has always been a powder keg, and it's gotten worse and worse in recent years as a consequence of COVID really kicking this mania into high gear. Your sense of community can come from so many different places. This is why a lot of other social formations are actually pretty successful, like church groups and whatnot. You know what I mean? Even if there are some more toxic elements involved in that sort of thing. I mean, hobbies and having more autonomy in your own life, and then a more productive outlet that you develop through things that you pursue, not for wage labor, but for your own personal journey, for your own personal development, would quite literally be the successful thing to do here. But a lot of people don't have that. That is an unimaginable reality for many due to capitalism.
People be posting their fucking... Do I look more Hispanic? Not really. It's crazy. This is when I started. You look more Hispanic before. Now you look less Hispanic. What could I be doing wrong? Nobody said anything in the...
We all agree this is racist. I think these people are so sad that I don't even know. I feel like it transcends being racist at that point. It's like racism comes from like having a level of historic power that you're tapping into. If we're thinking about it more spiritually, I guess. Race fetishization can come from racism as well, but I don't know how to describe it. It's like so sad and it's so weird and it's so mentally unwell that, yeah, I don't know how to describe it. When I say racism, I'm thinking of like a sense of disgust, a sense of like proximity to power that a person feels they have. Like a white person can feel powerless, but the at least I'm not a black person mentality is more often the motivating principle behind it, right? Like that's usually, that is the guiding principle behind white supremacist thought in the post-abolition Reconstruction era, which was very successful at driving a wedge through class politics. I don't know. I feel like these people are too mentally unstable. I don't know how to describe it. There's still definitely a tremendous amount of fetishization, which is still inherently racist, but I don't know. I feel like it's like different. It's like a different category. There's also a history of different racialized groups trying to pass being white to get out of the oppression. Yeah, but that is seen as a mechanism of survival. And it's like a significantly more understandable notion than someone who's white, who's fetishizing like an Asian person and fantasizing about becoming Asian. You know what I mean? Because the RTCA groups, for the most part, are probably white people. Like they're dominated overwhelmingly by white people. Remember the conversation that me and FD Signifier had about how FD Signifier brought something up that was really interesting that I had never considered, where he said, you're spicy white, which means that you already have like something that is very different than like the powerful, dominant whiteness that most white people are. So that makes you safe because you are white, but it also somehow makes you exotic. He even said, but that's precisely the reason why like a lot of, I don't know, like he said like a lot of white people that are in this space are oftentimes not just like white in the way that you understand it, like a Minnesota born and bred German boy, but instead white passing or white Hispanic, things of that nature. Like whiteness is such a powerful concept that a lot of people that fall under that whiteness category oftentimes will feel a sense of being the default and will turn around and look for additional things that they can hold on to that say, no, I'm a little different. I'm not just like regular white. Like, come on, I'm this, I'm that. And I think this is basically that on overdrive. That's a normal feeling to want to have, to not just be default, to be like a little bit more different, to be a little bit different than like the default character. This only exists in American culture. Absolutely. What we are talking about is absolutely American white people. For all the Europeans, for all the people that are watching from anywhere outside of the world, I am currently exclusively talking about American whiteness, because this nation was designed and built around the fundamentals of like the black-white paradigm and white supremacy. So it is certainly a little different than other places in that regard. Obviously, this is not to say that there is no anti-black racism or whatnot in other Western nations. Of course there are, but we're talking about like a consistent need to find and draw from this like mythological culture that you have created. And when you don't have 200, 300 years of 400 years of tradition and culture to draw from in the same way that like a lot of European ethnicities can, for better or for worse, you find yourself in this pit where you have to say, well, I'm French. I'm French, actually. My parents are French. Or I'm German and this is my Germanic heritage, you know? American whiteness has the capacity to, once it brings you into the fold, it has the capacity to give you, obviously, a tremendous amount of privilege, but it also has that effect of just painting over your entire heritage, your entire background. Obviously, the most forcible version of this, which is not the same, but a very obvious version of this happened with black people, and it happened through historic violence, which is why there is a real pointable black culture in the United States of America, because that culture was created out of oppression. That culture was created out of slavery. That culture was created when Black people, African men and women, were stolen, robbed of their own individual identities, their ethnic backgrounds, and were through the sequence of violence and oppression and slavery and, you know, other forms of systemic oppression that still permeate through every orifice of society in contemporary American experiences, still have like an identifiable, tangible, pointable culture. That culture was created. White people do not have that because it's the default. Since white is a construct, it can't provide a sense of identity like Black culture does. I mean, Blackness is also a construct. We're not talking about like having black skin only. Black culture is also socially constructed. The difference in that circumstance is that it's one that you cannot escape because it's so it's so ingrained into the fundamentals of like living in American society. What do I always say? It's the one group of people that will never be white. Every other group of people have basically been cast under the umbrella of whiteness, but the one group of people that never will be white are Black people, because whiteness is quite literally your proximity to blackness, right? The one drop rule. All of these concepts are quite literally created to show how far away from blackness you are. That's why oftentimes people say whiteness is defined not on what it is, but on what it isn't. And if you're saying indigenous people right now, you're wrong. Indigenous people, through a sequence of violent cultural genocide, have also been, in certain circumstances, brought through violence under the umbrella of whiteness, like forcibly so. Indigenous people in America, but indigenous people in South America as well. Indigenous people in North America, certainly, but certainly indigenous people in South America too. What the fuck do you think white Mexicans are? You think white people in South American countries were there always? It's a mixture of violent assimilation, colonialism, and becoming white in the United States of America. Just adding that doesn't mean Black people can't be whitewashed. No, they certainly can, and it's usually through a need for survival. It oftentimes is like born out of a need for wanting to survive in a white dominant society. This is like one of the other negative consequences, I guess, of having like being born into the dominant subgroup, where it's the other side of like being white. Like being a part of like the default category makes you want to show different sides, and it can lead you to weirdly mythologizing white supremacy and then thinking you're a fucking Viking and becoming like a loser groiper online. That's how some white people operate. Or it can manifest itself in this way where you're like, I'm constantly trying to move away from it. And a healthier version of that is, you know, people living in Boston who are like 11 generations American being like, oh, I'm going back to Ireland. I'm actually Irish. And then a less healthier version of that is this, like a significantly less healthier version that oftentimes children are engaging in, is the fantasy that you actually aren't white because you don't feel white because you're actually technically Asian or Hispanic or whatever the fuck, right? And then having a Discord server full of other like-minded children who are reinforcing that behavior.
Face reveal, I'm kind of insecure, but I tried doing the Asian anime look. After watching subs in anime, it kind of worked. Oh my god, you're so pretty.
Oh god. Oh my god.
This has to be like a joke server, right? Like,
okay, this is kind of fucked up because that's me. That's a photo of me. I don't know how they got that. I did not consent to having my photo and my likeness and also my real world experience be brought up in front of millions of people, okay? Yeah, one thing that sucks about my family having been in America for 400 years is that I have no nationality in Europe to identify with. I'm probably equal parts English, Welsh, Scottish, Irish, and with a little bit of French and German. You are exactly who I'm talking about. Like a person who is so white American and been here for so long, and because America doesn't have any kind of serious culture outside of just like hyper-capitalist white supremacy, you just don't have anything to associate with. You don't have a cultural backbone. You know what I mean? Bro is 1/3 Disneylandian. No, literally though. And I think that is something that probably haunts like 11th generation white Americans, that they don't have anything to like associate with. Like your culture is fucking 4th of July at that point. You got nothing else in a tragic way. Remember when Donald Trump was like, we're going to fucking destroy your cultural landmarks? And then Iran, I think, retaliated with, we'll fucking destroy your cultural landmarks. And we were thinking like, what cultural landmarks could they destroy? McDonald's? Disneyland? Think about that. In America, what fucking cultural landmarks can you destroy? The Twin Towers? The beacon of capitalism? Like, what do you have? I guess Mount Rushmore, which, you know, would probably make a lot of people happy. A lot of indigenous people, at least, which was, again, stolen. It's either all stolen or just a signature of American capitalist excellence. How do you reconcile the belief that America has no culture, but you admit of America's cultural hegemony worldwide today? That's a great question. Because what I'm saying is American culture does not revolve around like any kind of serious tradition that isn't born out of white supremacist, hyper-capitalist, hyper-individualistic dominance. But in many respects, the American culture as a hegemonic product that we're talking about is quite literally black culture repackaged and repurposed 1,000 times over by white people. And look no further than one aspect of it from a white perspective, which is Kentucky Fried Chicken in Japan being a cultural phenomena on Christmas. Even then, KFC, which is like supposed to be soul food, is repackaged as a white person's product by Colonel fucking Sanders, even though it's quite literally supposed to be black food. Beyond that, if you're talking about American cultural hegemony, a lot of the attitudes that America is selling to the rest of the planet, ones that helped me assimilate to American culture from a very early age, is mostly still black culture. Rap music is a great example of this. That is still mostly controlled by white people, but it's at least black facing, right? It's like there's a black face to it. I think what makes America great is, in many respects, its diversity, the fact that it's a melting pot. I do love that. Personally, you guys know my opinions on cultural appropriation versus cultural appreciation, or an amalgamation of culture, rather. I've talked about this quite frequently, but also at the same time, it is an amalgamation that is churned out as a product that in order to consume. It's a product that reinforces capitalist hegemony. It's a product that is like created and sold with the express purpose of sales, with the express purpose of like having you consume it. And that's what makes it bad. There is no real human-led experiences behind it. It is in many respects the absolute opposite of like thousands of years of culture coming from people retelling stories, doing it so that they can carry on traditions. It's inorganic. That's the RTCA. Apparently this is someone, they watch this kind of stuff to like develop monolids. They listen to these subliminals to like start developing, like physically changing their eyes. RCTA to Turk, not serious, I think. What? Hey guys, I'm new to RCTA account. Let me introduce myself. American to Turkish. I've always felt wrong in being American. Every time I went to Turkey for vacation, I felt a connection to them. I recommend watching Turkish shows to feel more Turkish. My goals: get thick Turkish hair, thick brows, eat Turkish food, and learn Turkish. Remember, RCTAs are valid. I go by the name Asya. It means Asia. I'm so excited to become Turkish because then I'm Asian and Middle Eastern and European. This is fire. There's no fire. I'm joking. Okay, there you go. What the fuck? Listening to British music, practicing my accent, watching British TV, eating British food. Beans on toast is actually really good as long as the toast doesn't go too soggy. I really want to try Cadbury's chocolate and scones. Okay, this is a joke, man. In England, we say fanny instead of car. When we walk our dogs, we say we're going dogging. Hope this helps. Bro, this one didn't take, okay? If your child is trying to racially transition into being British, this is the one qualifier where you're allowed to do a super late term abortion. Take your whole ass, grown ass adult child and put it back in the oven. Let it cook a little bit. We need a reset on that. Yeah, here's what British people are doing, okay? Nothing like eating a lovely home-cooked meal by Tubbo. Do with waffles, sausage, and fucking baked beans. Okay, that's a joke. Come on. No one's doing that. Learning about British history. Someone in the comments told me about the Battle of Hastings, so I've been researching that. Smile. Using more British slang and kisses too. I mean, this is definitely a joke. I don't believe it, and I will never believe that someone did that seriously and unironically. All I'm stating is this. Probably still better than motherfuckers taking colloidal silver. Granola moms are back. We're going to do 4G auto blow in a second, but before that, we do granola moms.
Colloidal silver.
Colloidal silver is something everybody should have in their medicine cabinet.
It electromagnetically attracts the bacteria.
Just a teaspoon under the tongue. It I'll have to look at what it does.
Yeah, I don't even know what it does, but just take it. Just fucking take it. Don't even know.
Prevents pneumonia. I feel like a crack addict.
I drink so much coffee. I've drank
Keeps
too
flowers
much
fresh.
coffee.
Like I just need it.
1 drop right in the eyeball.
I have found colloidal silver to be a great
There ain't no way. You can't put that in your fucking eyeball. What the fuck, dude?
natural remedy for dogs.
And that's how you nebulize colloidal silver.
Okay.
By the way, this has been a thing for a while.
Adjust your TV set. This man's skin really is
The only difference is the media used to make fun of these fucking kooks.
blue. He used to look like this, a good-looking young man with a shock of red hair. But after using a home remedy, Paul
This guy was
Carlson
just
looks
RCTA, but to a Smurf, and you guys are here laughing.
It all started when Paul was looking for a cure for flaky skin. Doing his own research, he read about drinking a solution of silver in water. At first, things were fine, but then Paul started rubbing it onto his skin, and it started turning blue.
When did you first realize that you were blue?
A friend that hadn't seen me in a while came by and asked me what I'd done to myself.
And despite the change in his skin color, Paul kept drinking the stuff because he says it cured ailments
Like being white? What was the ailment? This is the logical conclusion of I'm doing my own research, by the way. Here it is.
and even arthritis. Paul showed me how he makes it.
Motherfucker, sinus problems. Bro, it's the peak of not worth.
I use distilled water, and then I take this apparatus here.
It looks like a high school science experiment. Paul attaches electrodes to a strand of silver wire. He sends a current into the water, which extracts the silver. After
Oh my
about
God.
15 minutes, the dissolved silver turns the water into a
Oh, this is even better because, like, this is a OG. This guy is a literal OG, right? So I think he didn't even have access to, like, all of the right-wing nutsos that sell this shit. So he had to do it himself. You got to put respect on this man. He's the original Smurf. Love this, dude. This guy's awesome.
milky liquid.
Yeah, I like drinking peppermint tea when I'm stuffy. How about you put some fucking, instead of pepper, how about you put some colloidal silver in it next
Paul's
time?
fiance Jackie drinks the stuff too. But Jackie's skin looks normal because she says she never applied the silver directly to her face like Paul did.
Wait, why is she shaking while she's drinking it? Did you see that? Her hand was shaking. He's like, I don't fucking want this shit, but I'm doing it for him because I love my man.
They met on the...
Yeah, guess what? She never turned silver because she never actually drank it, dude. She was like... She's like, oh yeah, I love drinking it, Paul. Oh, look at me slamming these back, dude.
The phone and she fell in love with him. Months later, she saw him for the first time.
Wait, she fell in love with him when he was blue or when he was white? Let's be real. She's got a Smurf fetish, okay? She was like, I get what Gargamel was trying to do. You know what I mean? She was like, I'm trying to gargle all up in your Mel till I'm blue in the face. Fuck, I'm so bad. Okay.